Queen Elizabeth had the longest reign among the British monarchs, spending 70 years and 214 days on the throne. However, what did a normal day in the life of the glamorous monarch look like in this video? We follow a typical day in the life and times of the Queen before she died. 7:30 am. The Queen woke up to her Twinings, Earl Grey tea, with 2 biscuits and milk. She listened to the Today program on Radio 4 while enjoying her morning tea. This was a popular news and current affairs program that covered topics such as politics, culture, sports, and weather. The Queen liked to keep herself informed of what was happening in the world and her country. She also liked to listen to the opinions and debates of the guests and presenters on the program. 8 am. The Queen took a bath of just 7 inches of water prepared by a maid. Why 7 inches of water? There were some possible explanations. One was that she was following a tradition that dated back to her ancestors, who believed that bathing in too much water was wasteful and unhealthy. Another was that she was conscious of the environmental impact of using too much water and wanted to conserve it for the sake of the planet. A third was that she simply preferred a shallow bath as it was more comfortable, convenient for her. Whatever the reason, the Queen had a very specific routine for her morning bath, which involved her maid checking the temperature and depth of the water with a thermometer and a ruler. The Queen liked her bath to be tepid, not too hot or cold, and no more than 7 inches deep. This was equivalent to 17.8 centimeters, which was enough to cover her body, but not submerge her head. The Queen took her bath at around 8 am after having her first cup of tea and listening to the radio. Then dressed in one of her signature outfits, chosen by her assistant and curator of her wardrobe, Angela Kelly. Angela had been working for the Queen since 1994 and had a close relationship with her. She knew the Queen's preferences and tastes and selected outfits that suited the occasion and the weather. She also helped the Queen with accessories such as hats, gloves, shoes, bags, and jewelry. The Queen's outfits were usually colorful and elegant and often had symbolic meanings or messages. For example, she wore a green outfit with a shamrock brooch when she visited Ireland in 2011 as a gesture of friendship and respect for her hairdresser, and brushed and arranged her hair in the same style that she had worn for decades. The Queen's hairstyle was simple and practical and did not require much maintenance or change. She liked to keep her hair neat and did not use any hair products or dye. But what happened to the Queen's old clothes? According to Brian Hoey, author of Not in Front of the Corey, the Queen regularly gave her old clothes to her dressers, who were then allowed to do one of 2 things with them: wear them themselves or sell them. However, there were some rules if they opted to sell the Queen's clothes. If her dresser wished to sell an item, she was not allowed to disclose any information about its former owner, said Brian. All labels and any other evidence that might have pointed to the Queen had to be removed so that no one could trace its origin. Some of the Queen's most memorable and historic ensembles were taken by a royal trust for preservation and future display in museums. For instance, the Queen's coronation dress and robe, designed by Norman Hartnell in 1953, were kept at the Royal Collection Trust and were occasionally exhibited to the public. The same went for the Queen's wedding dress, also designed by Hartnell. In 1947, these dresses were considered national treasures and part of the royal heritage. Some of the clothes and accessories were also donated to charities or auctioned off for good causes. For example, in 2016, a collection of 22 hats worn by the Queen between 1960 and 1980 was sold at an auction for £27,000, which was donated to animal welfare charities. In 2019, a pair of shoes worn by the Queen on her wedding day was sold at an auction for £1,850, which was donated to a hospice charity. Some of the Queen's clothes and accessories were also passed down to her family members or given as gifts to her friends. For example, the Queen had given some of her hats to Princess Diana. When she married Prince Charles in 1981, she had also given some of her jewellery to Kate Middleton. When she married Prince William in 2011, the Queen liked to share her wardrobe with her loved ones and show them her affection. 8:30 am. The Queen had breakfast, usually cereal and fruit, which she kept in Tupperware to keep fresh. Sometimes she had toast and marmalade instead, but on special occasions, she enjoyed scrambled eggs with smoked salmon and a grating of truffle. She liked brown eggs better and white ones, as she thought they tasted nicer. She also listened to the bagpipes played by a royal piper outside her window, which she reportedly adored. The royal piper was a tradition that dates back to Queen Victoria's reign, when she appointed the first one in 1843. The piper played for about 15 minutes every morning, except when the Queen was away or ill. The Queen liked to hear different tunes from the piper, such as traditional Scottish songs or modern pop songs. 9:30 am, the Queen started her paperwork, which usually lasted 2 hours. She read and signed official state papers, cabinets, documents, and telegrams that were sent to her in the famous red boxes. The red boxes were leather cases that contained important documents from the government and other sources that required the Queen's attention or approval. The Queen received 2 red boxes every day, one in the morning and one in the evening. She took her role as head of state very seriously and read every document carefully before signing it or making any comments on it. She also chose a few letters from the public to reply to personally out of the 300 that she received every day. The Queen liked to connect with her subjects and show them that she cared about their lives and problems. She wrote her replies by hand or dictated them to her private secretary, who then typed them up. Here are some examples of letters from the public that the Queen personally responded to. In 2012, a 4-year-old boy named Jacob wrote to the Queen to invite her to his 5th birthday party. He said he was a big fan of hers and wanted to meet her. He also drew a picture of himself and the Queen holding hands. The Queen wrote back to him thanking him for his kind invitation and his lovely drawing. She said she was glad to hear that he liked her and wished him a very happy birthday. In 2014, a 12-year-old girl named Lydia wrote to the Queen to ask her about her views on Scottish independence. She said she was confused by the referendum and wanted to know what the Queen thought. The Queen wrote back to her, saying that she appreciated her interest in the matter and that she understood how difficult it was to make such a decision. She said she hoped that people would think carefully about the future before voting, and that whatever the outcome, they would respect each other and work together for the common good. In 2016, a 90-year-old woman named Betty wrote to the Queen to congratulate her on her 90th birthday. She said she shared the same birthday as the Queen and that she admired her for her long and remarkable reign. She also said she hoped to receive a letter from the Queen when she turned 100. The Queen wrote back to her, thanking her for her warm wishes and saying that she was delighted to hear that they shared the same birthday. She hoped that Betty had a wonderful celebration and that she looked forward to hearing from her again in 10 years. In 2018, a 6-year-old. A boy named Harry wrote to the Queen to ask her if she could make his father a knight. He said his father was his hero and that he deserved a medal for being brave and kind. He also said he wanted to be a knight when he grew up and protect the Queen. The Queen wrote back to him thanking him for his lovely letter and saying that she was impressed by his ambition. She said she could not make his father a knight, as that was a very special honour reserved for very few people, but she agreed that his father was a hero and that he should be proud of him. And in 2020, a 7-year-old girl named Daisy wrote to the Queen to ask her how she was coping with the coronavirus pandemic. She said she was worried about the Queen and hoped that she was staying safe and healthy. She also said she missed going to school and seeing her friends. The Queen wrote back to her, thanking her for her thoughtful letter and saying that she was doing well and following the advice of the experts. She said she understood how hard it was to stay at home and miss out on normal activities. But she encouraged Daisy to keep learning new things and having fun at home. 10:30 am. The Queen finished her paperwork and prepared for her meetings either at Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, or travelled around the UK for engagements. She often visited venues related to her patronages, accompanied by her husband, Prince Philip, or other members of the royal family. She met with various people such as dignitaries, celebrities, charity workers, and ordinary citizens. She also received gifts and flowers from the public which she appreciated and thanked them, for the Queen was very friendly and gracious to everyone she met and always tried to make them feel comfortable and respected. 11:30 am. The Queen attended a meeting with the Prime Minister or another head of state, either in person or via video call. The Queen had weekly meetings with the Prime Minister, usually on Wednesdays, where they discussed matters of state and government. The Queen also met with other heads of state when they visited the UK or when she'd visited their countries. The Queen had met with every US president since Dwight D. Eisenhower, except for Lyndon B. Johnson. She also met with many other world leaders such as Nelson Mandela, Vladimir Putin, Angela Merkel, and Xi Jinping. The Queen was very knowledgeable and experienced in international affairs and offered advice and guidance to the leaders. She met at 12:30 p.m. The Queen attended a luncheon or a reception either at home or outside. She might have hosted or been invited to various events such as state banquets, garden parties, charity fundraisers, or award ceremonies. She might have also given speeches or toasts to the guests or honorees. The Queen enjoyed socializing and mingling with different people from different backgrounds and walks of life. She also liked to learn new things and hear different perspectives from the people she talked to at 1 p.m. The Queen had lunch, usually a low-carb meal of fish and vegetables. She ate alone unless she had guests or family members joining her. She also liked to drink gin and dubbone before lunch and wine. During lunch, the Queen was not a fussy eater, but she did have some preferences and dislikes. She liked chocolate, especially dark chocolate. She disliked garlic, onions, pasta, rice, potatoes, and spicy food. She also avoided shellfish and rare meat for health reasons. 2 p.m. The Queen resumed her afternoon engagements either at home or outside. She might have also held one-on-one meetings with other important figures such as the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Lord Chancellor, or the Speaker of the House of Commons. She also received daily reports from the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The Queen was very involved and interested in the workings of Parliament and the judiciary system. She respected the constitutional role of Parliament as the supreme legislative authority in the UK. She also upheld the independence and impartiality of the judiciary system. 3 p.m. The Queen had afternoon tea, usually with scones, jam, and clotted cream. She also liked to have finger sandwiches and cakes with her tea. She sometimes has guests or family members for tea as well. The Queen loved tea and drank it throughout the day. She preferred Earl Grey tea with a splash of milk and no sugar. She also had a special tea strainer that she used to avoid any tea leaves in her cup. 4 p.m. The Queen relaxed by watching TV or reading books. She liked to watch shows such as Downton Abbey, The Crown, and Doctor, and she also enjoyed reading detective novels by Agatha Christie and P.D. James. The Queen had a keen interest in history and literature, and often read biographies and historical novels as well. Here are some of the biographies that the Queen read. Perhaps you have read some of them. The Life of Samuel Johnson by James Boswell. This was a classic biography of one of the most influential writers and thinkers of the 18th century. Samuel Johnson. The Queen admired Johnson's wit, wisdom, and courage, and was fascinated by his friendship with Boswell, who recorded his conversations and anecdotes in detail. The Queen also liked to quote Johnson's famous saying as patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. And when a man is tired of London, he is tired of life. The Six Wives of Henry VIII by Alison Weir. This was a comprehensive and captivating biography of the 6 women who married Henry, 81 of the most notorious monarchs in British history. The Queen was interested in the personal and political dramas that surrounded Henry's marriages and how they shaped the course of history. She also felt a connection with some of his wives, such as Anne Boleyn, who was her distant relative, and Catherine Parr, who was her godmother. Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. This was an inspiring autobiography of Nelson Mandela, the anti-apartheid leader and former president of South Africa. The Queen met Mandela several times and had great respect and admiration for him through his story of struggle, sacrifice, and resilience, and his vision of peace and reconciliation. She also shared his passion for nature and conservation. The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. This was a poignant diary of Anne Frank, a Jewish girl who hid from the Nazis in Amsterdam during World War II. The Queen read this book when she was a teenager and was deeply touched by Anne's courage, optimism, and humanity. She also related to Anne's feelings of loneliness, boredom, and frustration as she experienced some isolation and restrictions during the war. Churchill: A Life by Martin Gilbert. This was a definitive biography of Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister who led Britain through World War II. The Queen had a close and respectful relationship with Churchill, who was her first Prime Minister and her mentor. She learned a lot from his leadership, wisdom, and humour, and valued his advice and support. She also witnessed some of his most memorable speeches and moments. The Queen also liked to do crossword puzzles and Sudoku to keep her mind sharp. 5 p.m. The Queen took her corgis for a walk around the gardens of Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. The Queen had been introduced to corgis when she was a young girl and had fallen in love with them. Instantly, her father, King George VI, had given her a corgi named Di as a gift in 1933 when she was 7 years old. She later got another corgi named Jane, who gave birth to 2 puppies, Crackers and Carol. The Queen had been very fond of her corgis and had often played with them and taken them for walks. The Queen had continued to own and breed corgi throughout her life and had had more than 30 of them. Over the years, she had given them names such as Susan, Sugar, Heather, Monty, Holly Willow, and Vulcan. She had also created a new breed of dog called the Dorgie by crossing a corgi with a dachs.